titled Thinking and Feeling. Thinking and Feeling. Throughout the ages, there have been people who understood that thoughts are things and connected this realization with cause and effect, especially in regards to the physical and mental conditions that the thoughts have reflected and the feelings have reflected. We really cannot feel a thought we cannot really feel without a thought, and we cannot think without a corresponding feeling. This is an inherent part of our nature. Most of us realize that positive and negative thinking are just two ways of using the same energy of mind by the ability of self-choice. We can choose our thoughts and therefore our feelings about a thing or a person, and these thoughts and feelings are always changeable, always changeable. That's why we can read in the scripture, renew a right spirit within me, renew a right spirit within me, because we can always change. That's why Jesus said, forgive 70 times 7. In other words, get rid of all the things in your mind that create a negative cause and put in a positive thought that creates a positive something wonderful to experience. So this is inherent. This is an inherent part of our nature because we are an intelligent species. We can think, we can analyze, we can choose. And most of us realize, once again, that the positive and negative thinking are just two ways of using the same energy of mind through self-choice. We can choose our thoughts and therefore our feelings about a thing or a person, and these thoughts and feelings are always, once again, changeable. But it is incumbent upon us to be conscious of what our thoughts are and our thoughts about the feelings that we experience. This is why the great Rev Ike tells us to ask ourselves what we think about ourselves. Rev Ike says, what do you think about yourself? He says, I'm not asking you what you think about God or what you think about Jesus or what you think about Rev Ike. My question to you is, what do you think about you? What do you think about you? The only value a person has is his own self-esteem. What he thinks about himself, what he believes about himself, and what he feels about himself, that's the only value that you have. That's from the great Rev Ike. So most people don't take the time to consciously consider what their thoughts and feelings are about themselves, and therefore old negative thoughts and feelings are never displaced with a better thought and feeling. Then when something happens to get our attention as to what we think of ourselves, what we really think of ourselves, we are not always prepared to meet the situation as well as we are capable of doing. Probably if there's any sin that goes against the will of God, it is self-depreciation. Self-depreciation. So many people go around self-depreciating themselves. In other words, putting themselves down. Not realizing that we are created in the image and the likeness, that is the nature of God, and that when we put ourselves down, we're putting God's creation down. We are creation of God. We are creation of God. We're always drawing from the intelligence, the power, and the spirit of God. So when we self-depreciate or put ourselves down, we're shortchanging ourselves, and we're denying God's spirit within us, God's perfect creation as us. So each and every one of us must come to terms at some point in time with those self-depreciations. It's really a very amazing thing when we think about it and allow ourselves to believe and allow ourselves to receive that greater inspiration from Spirit, from God, when we think about what it is that God has created us to be. What is it? What do you think of yourself? What do you think of what God has created you to be, to do, to have? We're all here. We all are here with a purpose. God has purposed us into being, so to speak. Now, this energy of mind, both positive and negative, it creates our feelings, and we have a feeling about something. It could be a physical thing, it could be a mental thing, but our thought about it is what defines it. So how do we define it? If we feel like my back is sore, do I start thinking about all the horrible things that can happen if I have back problems or back surgeries or any of that, or do we start thinking this is only a temporary thing and I'm going to affirm and activate the principle of health within me Affirm that the intelligence that created me knows how to correct whatever it is that's going on, and this too shall pass, and it shall pass quickly. But it's up to us to make the conscious choice to displace the thoughts that we always have when some of these things happen. Because some of us habitually, we're always sick. We're always sick, or we're always aching, or we're always got something going on, physically, mentally, emotionally, whether we're sick physically or we're sick with depression or anxieties and fears. So we want to eliminate that by displacing it with that greater thought, that positive energy that we draw from the Spirit. Now, many people have had the experience of thought energy affecting someone else. This is the reason for the experience of love at first sight, or at least in some cases, lust at first sight. It happens when the thought energy of someone finds its correspondent in another. It is as though it has an energy of its own, but in truth, it only has the energy that thought has generated. One may be in need of something that is creating an attractive energy through thought that another person has, be it a personality trait or a physical attribute, and this energy of feeling, thinking brings them together. The same thinking, feeling energy can also draw into our awareness ideas and solutions that can provide us opportunities for greater self-expression. Provide us with opportunities for greater self-expression. So when we start thinking in our mind about what is my image of me, what is my image of my place in the universe, how do I see myself? Do I see myself as capable? Do I see myself as self-reliant? Do I see myself strong in faith, strong and present? Do I feel a thought atmosphere about me that attracts good to me? If not, then I need to begin affirming those things, that there's something in me, there's this energy within me, this positive energy that attracts to me good and more good, like a magnet. And let ourselves believe it. And let ourselves start thinking, double thinking. When something happens, instead of thinking what we would think in the old way, the thoughts that we would have and the feelings we would have in the old way, generate a whole new thought, a whole new feeling that's more positive, more uplifting, more beneficial, more value, and keeping us ever closer into the experience of the joyful life, the good life, and the wonderful life. Now, Reverend Ike reveals that thinking and feeling really cannot be separate and apart from each other. And he tells us, when you go for that job interview, subconsciously, the interviewer picks up how you feel about yourself. When you go for that job interview, subconsciously, the interviewer picks up how you feel about yourself. He may not understand it intellectually, but he'll feel it, and he won't hire you. In this world, people can put you through a lot of unnecessary changes if they want to. But if you feel right about yourself and you go through life feeling good and believing good about yourself, people will treat you good. Think good thoughts about yourself. The Bible says, as a man thinks, so is he. We read that in the book of Proverbs in the Ancient Wisdom, 23:7. As a man thinks, so is he. It really means, as a man thinks of himself, so is he. If you think that you're no good, you'll never be any good. I'm reminded of my experience growing up as a little boy in South Carolina, Reverend Ike tells us, working in a greasy automobile repair shop without shoes and sometimes without a shirt. Reverend Ike tells us, I'm reminded of my experience growing up as a little boy in South Carolina, working in a greasy automobile repair shop without shoes and sometimes without a shirt. Every once in a while, the white head mechanic would look down at me and say to me, boy, do you think you'll ever amount to anything? Now, I've been thinking about that, he tells us. I used to think he was trying to put me down. Maybe he wasn't trying to put me down at all. Maybe he saw something good in me that he was trying to draw out of me. You know, in life, it's not what's done to you, but how you perceive what is done to you. I could have taken that as an insult, he tells us. but something deep down inside of me responded to his question, boy, do you think you'll ever amount to anything? Because it touched something in me. I remember straightening up and immediately squaring my shoulders and looking him in the face and saying, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this is what you have to say to life. You have to say yes to life. You have to say yes to your greater possibilities. You have to say yes to health. You have to say yes to happiness. You have to say yes to love, yes to success, yes to prosperity, and yes to money. As a man thinks of himself, so is he, Rev Ike tells us. Jesus said it another way. According to your faith, so be it unto you. That's from the Gospel of Matthew 9:29. And your faith is not what you believe about God so much. Your faith is what you believe about yourself. Your faith is not what you believe about God so much. Your faith is what you believe about yourself. Every concept is in some way a self-concept. Every concept is in some way a self-concept. According to your faith, so be it unto you. According to your self-image, so be it unto you. According to your self-esteem, so be it unto you. The reason people don't strive to be better, to do better, and have better is because they don't believe that they can. They don't believe in themselves. Everything starts with a belief. How else shall you be good to yourself? Be good to yourself by feeling good about yourself. You know, those are the words from the wonderful Rev Ike. You know, we read in the Scripture that we're to love our neighbor as ourselves. But if we don't love ourselves, you know, that's not doing our neighbors any favor. It's not doing our neighbors any favor if we see them in a diminished way, if we see them in a self-depreciated way, a put-down way. Because if that's the way we see ourselves, we can't love our neighbor anymore. We can't see our neighbor in any greater light. Now, when this head mechanic, looked at Rev Ike when he was a young boy and said, boy, do you think you'll ever amount to anything? I'm sure he was aware that here was a boy that was coming to work, even when he had no shoes. Here was a boy coming to work even when he didn't have a shirt to wear, and he was showing up. And something within that head mechanic knew that if this young man had the ambition to show up under those conditions in this greasy, what do you call it, a greasy automobile repair shop, without shoes, sometimes without a shirt, I'm sure this head mechanic figured this boy has the ambition to be that something greater, to do that something more, to realize a greater experience in his life, a greater success, a greater prosperity, a greater joy. So we must remind ourselves daily, what do I think of me? What do I think of me? What do I think of me? Do I see myself as average? Do I see myself as mediocre? Do I see myself as superior? That's the wrong attitude. Do I see myself inferior? That's even the more wrong attitude. How do we see ourselves? How do we feel about ourselves? Because the way we feel about ourselves creates that thought about ourselves, and that thought about ourselves can lift up those feelings into something more powerful, something greater. As we have faith, faith is the strength of the soul, and lost is the person without it. We have faith in ourselves. We have faith that God can do for us, through us, whatever it is that we desire to experience. And we will gradually grow into that condition. As the great Thomas Stewart says, we can gradually grow into any condition we desire, provided we first make ourselves, in habitual mental attitude, the person who corresponds to those conditions. In other words, when we believe in ourselves, when we believe that God has given us this desire, which is of the Father, D is of, desire is Father, it tells us it's of the Father, of the Spirit, of the intelligence, of the power that created all that we see, that there's something in us that can do it. There's something in us that is capable. There's something in us that can believe and receive. That's look at these words from the ancient wisdom. This is from Marcus Aurelius, who lived from AD 121 to 180. In other words, within the first 200 years after Jesus. He was a Roman emperor, best known for his meditations on Stoic philosophy. I'm not sure what Stoic means, but I do understand philosophy. He is quoted as saying, this Marcus Aurelius, the great Dr. Norman Vincent Peale says he's one of the greatest minds throughout history. He tells us very little is needed to make a happy life. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will have strength. Realize this and you will have strength. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. You have power over your mind, not outside events. In other words, we don't control anything outside of us. We can only control our perception of things outside of us. We can only control what we think about the things outside of us. So realize this and you will have strength. So we can all use this spiritually potent idea to bless us, to heal us, to prosper us. And we can make this, to take this affirmation into our mind. I'm going to give you this fabulous, wonderful, powerful affirmation that will condition your mind to be more in tune with the infinite and the infinite good in both thought and feeling. So if you're not driving a vehicle or operating something mechanical, just pause for a moment and listen. Listen with your inner ear. Don't listen with your outer ear. Listen to what it's telling you. Take it personally. Take these words personally into your mind. I don't know who the author of this affirmation was, because it's listed as anonymous, but it's a powerful, powerful word. So here we go. From the light of God that I am, from the love of God that I am, from the power of God that I am, from the heart of God that I am. Think about that. You are the image, the likeness of God. You are the light, the love, the power. You are in the heart of God. So from the light of God that I am, from the love of God that I am, from the power of God that I am, from the heart of God that I am, I decree. I dwell in the midst of infinite abundance. The abundance of God is my infinite source. The river of life never stops flowing. It flows through me into lavish expression. Good comes to me through unexpected avenues, and God works in a myriad of ways to bless me. I now open my mind to receive my good. I now open my mind to receive my good. Nothing is too good to be true. Nothing is too wonderful to have happen. With God as my source, nothing amazes me. I am not burdened by thoughts of past or future. One is gone, the other is yet to come. By the power of my belief, coupled with my purposeful, fearless actions and my deep rapport with God, my future is created and my abundance made manifest. I ask and accept that I am lifted in this and every moment into higher truth. My mind is quiet. From this day forward, I give freely and fearlessly into life, and life gives back to me with magnificent increase. Blessings come in expected and unexpected ways. God provides for me in wondrous ways. I am indeed grateful, and I let it be so. So think about those words, and think about what it's telling us, and think about the energy that you feel in your mind when you believe this is so. Think about the energy that you believe. Look up. Jesus said, look up and not down. Look away from the things that trouble you. Look away from the lack and the limitations of the world. Look up. Not that you're looking up to God, because God is right there where you are. Where you stand is holy ground, because God is omnipresent, everywhere present. But look up with wonder at this creation. Look up with wonder. You know, we have the blood moon, the super moon. Look at the wonder of God's creation. That's so beyond anything man's human mind could ever imagine or create. It's an intelligence far beyond anything that the human mind rules the universe. This power, this presence, this spirit, this intelligence that we call God, for lack of a better word, is infinite in its abilities. And that we can tap into that infinity of intelligence and spirit and power through faith, through our feelings and our thinking. We can change our feelings into positive feelings, our thoughts into positive thoughts. We can heal our mind, our body, and our spirit daily and enjoy that good life, that wonderful life, that greater life still, each and every one of us. And so it is. Amen.